Here we go. We are recording.
Cool. So, how I told, I like to take interviews, and I think you have an interesting experience, and this theme is also interesting for me, and I believe many people, even though they do not talk about this, but they would like to know. Uh, yes, and you know all these words that we need to share, support, other stuff. But yes, actually, this all about it as well. Uh, Also, I'm going to actually translate it into Russian. I will upload it to Russian and English maybe on my Facebook and YouTube. YouTube channel. And yes, also I'm hoping that international experience can be interesting for Russians. Maybe some people think that Canadians live a different life. We'll see if it's actually true or not.
Yeah, there might be a misconception that Canadians live a perfect life, and that's definitely not true.
Yes. So, do you want to tell the story first?
It's up to you, man. You're leading the show here. Do you want to ask some questions, or do you want me to dive into who I am? Or
so we are talking about your, I think it was depression, right? It's not was only what just attempt to commit suicide. So maybe yes, I know the story, but if you want to tell me about this again, please.
Yeah. So it was about 7 years ago or so, I guess now. And I was engaged to somebody who I saw like, the rest of my life was going to be spent with. And then about a month before our wedding, she got the realization that we weren't soulmates. So she came to me and she said, "You know what, Steve? I think better if we called the wedding off." And we went our separate ways. And it was not a mutual breakup. It was something that she wanted that I didn't, and at the time, it devastated me, and it sent me into this new world of a darker mental space, somewhere that I hadn't really been before. And later on, over the last few years, I found out that was a deep, dark depression. And so what had happened was I ended up hiding from kind of like the real Steve, I guess, and from some of my family. And I'm kind of a bit of a social butterfly. So I was also in sales. So I had a really good kind of skill at putting on a mask and hiding my emotion and suppressing all of the pain and anxiety and shame and all those negative emotions that I was feeling. I was able to hide it from a lot of people, from friends and from family. And what happened was all of that suppression just kept building more and more pressure. And eventually that pressure exploded. And it took form of a very drunken night, to the point where I broke into a apartment building and went up to the 15th floor and looked over the edge of a balcony thinking, the pain is too much. Why continue? And I ended up being talked off the edge, so to speak. And the weird part about it was you'd think that would be the end of the story and that I got to happily recover and life goes on. Mm-hmm. But for the next 4 to 6 months, things just got worse. I felt more shameful.
Okay, never mind. Yes, you keep going, then I will ask you a question. Mm-hmm.
I felt more shameful because not only was I feeling depressed, but I was thinking to myself oh, here I am living in one of the greatest cities in the world, having a great supportive family, having good friends, having a good job. I have all these great things going on in my life, but yet I still feel like I need to get rid of all this pain that I have. And the best way to do that is by committing suicide. And so I felt very embarrassed that that that's how I was feeling. And so that embarrassment made me hide more and more and more and back away and get further and further and further from all my loved ones and all the people who were there to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that separation then started to compound. So not only am I hiding from people, but now I'm putting barriers in front of our relationships. And so all of those things made me go into a deeper, darker circle. And I started drinking on a more regular basis. And I was drinking a few beers, if not more, each night. And, there's the Canadian phrase of drinking your sorrows away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like a funk that I got into. And I don't know if you want to stop me there, if you want me to talk about like the pivot that I went through, or.
Yes, but maybe a couple of questions here. First of all, why she was so important for you? Because it happens to people, and not everybody is going to die after this. Maybe was it first time that it just some ideas that came to my mind that maybe I should ask you if it was first time in your life and somebody if your girlfriend told me I don't want to be with you anymore and you wanted to do this. Also, you told me about your kind of great social life, and not great but good life, and social and financial. Maybe it wasn't successful, that's why. I mean, you were successful in other situations, and maybe something else.
Yeah, no, that's a really big one, actually. Ever since I was a kid, I had a very high expectation of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely think that a piece of it was that I failed.
Mm-hmm.
And, looking back on it now, I don't know what that, percentage would be of how much that came into effect, but it definitely played a part. And, for a lot of people, it's really difficult to admit that they failed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I actually pushed myself more to do over the last couple of years of more personal growth, was to get more uncomfortable so that I fail more times, but I grow through those failures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I learned through, the depression that I went through, and through playing a lot of sports, and through building a business, is you have to fail. It is inevitable. Now, whether you fail in relationships or in business, or maybe you just lose a hockey game, you're going to fail eventually. Maybe you take a slap shot and it rings off the post. Is that a failure? Or can you change your mindset to think, yeah, you know what? I missed that shot, but I know I'm going to have another shot soon. How can I make that a better shot? Same thing with relationships. You know what? I missed that one. How can I pivot my mindset to make the next one even better? How can I callous myself to become stronger? And that was one of the biggest shifts that I had to go through.
Okay, and it's so just this question: what is important for you? Because you told I don't think that every time when you fail, you feel so depressed. Maybe it was very important for you. Maybe you have some important aspects, if I understand. So was it one of these things? Do you have many such things, like important things that you want to achieve in your life and you don't want to fail? Explain me my question, because I think, when a person focuses on only something, on only one, I don't know, on driving cars, and for instance, he was drunk and lost his driver license, and his life is destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So was it your case, or you had a couple of different aspects of your life?
Yeah, I think what it was for me was a combination of a number of different things. But the biggest thing for me was the two big things, actually. One, I think it was the rejection. And two, I had a very clear path of my future. I had the job figured out. I had the house. I had the career. I had the girl. I had my life figured out for my next 20 years or more. for the rest of my life. And then overnight, I lost a big piece of that. I lost the family, like that we had planned. I lost, the relationship. I lost a lot of that trajectory and that vision. And I think that's what was a big piece of the consequence.
And I'm just interested, did other stuff supported you at this moment, do you think? Because you still had some of your, legs. If there were 3, 5, 4 legs, for instance, your job, your friends, your family, but you lost your family, but you still had something. Did it support you? Or it just vice versa? Yes.
I think it supported me in a way, but not necessarily in a healthy way. So, for example, like with my career, because of the mental state I was in, it caused damage in all those other areas. My family relationships, my work, my physical fitness. It affected everything, right? And what happened was that, for example, work just became another place that I had to hide, because I felt when I went to work that I had to leave my emotion at the door and come in and focus. And so I had to put on this mask of everything's okay. And that mask it gave its own weight, in the sense of every time I had to put the thing on, that fakeness of, yeah, everything's fine, I'll leave my emotion at the door, I'm just here to work, blah, 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 things are fine. That wasn't real. And I had to suppress that raw, authentic aspect of myself. And I think that suppression was just more and more things compiled to make that pressure explode.
And yes, and did I send you correct that you actually didn't work 100% how you wanted to work and have fun with this and have good, like a bag, like a money bag, like, I mean, not only money, but I think you know what I mean, money, joy, and you know what I'm asking you? Okay, I will ask you again. So did I understand you correctly that you didn't work 100% and it wasn't so pleasant for you and you could do more because of this?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Like, my work got affected a lot. So let's say before that, I was operating at 100%. The months afterwards, I was operating at 40% probably.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about 10% down, but you told me.
No, it was a big hit, man. And the worst part about it is, because it took such a big hit, now I'm struggling with my mind saying, oh my God, this is affecting me so much more. Now I'm putting more pressure on top of myself to recover faster, or to think about it less, or to try to do better. And that additional pressure made things worse.
So do you think that's the depression, did it happen just that day, or did you have any other reasons? Maybe you felt something before this?
Yeah. It definitely wasn't the last straw on the camel's back. But, back then I wasn't as aware of myself, if that makes sense. So there was things that I thought about myself that, maybe I just told myself to be true. But for the most case, I don't think anybody lives a perfect life, so to speak. The average person certainly doesn't. And so for me, like, I was living a decent life, and I had no complaints about who I was, what I stood for, the path that I was on. And this circumstance disrupted my entire life. And so for me, I had to go and like re-find myself a little bit. So, if I were to, rewind to who I was before that breakup happened, were there pieces in my life that, maybe I was upset or sad or mad about? Yeah, I'm sure I could probably find things like the relationships that I had with some people, or the lack of confidence that I had in high school, or a couple other different things that I have addressed now and am stronger because I've addressed those things. But had that breakup not happened, I probably wouldn't have gone into such a deep, dark space without another large catalyst.
Just lost the. By the way, why did you change your mind on staying on the 15th floor? Why didn't you do this?
So I can vividly put myself back up there. Like, you walk in the door, it's a studio, so there's no bedroom. And the kitchen is, as soon as you walk in the door, it's up against the back wall. You got white walls. You would walk in, turn a left, and then you have all your living space. So there was a bed set up in the back corner. There was a TV, a dresser, and then all of this wall was windows with a sliding glass door. And so when I walked into there, there was a young man and his lady friend, probably, I don't know, 30s. And, they're both frightened, obviously. And he ended up talking to me, talking about my family, talking about things that I still had to live for, and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that really sticks out to me when I look back on it was the relationship that I had with my dad with sports. And so my dad and I used to run a lot. We used to play hockey quite a bit, swim, skate, play ball, bunch of catch, and a bunch of other stuff. And he used to help me train for a lot of my sports that I played. And when we would train, he would oftentimes push me to run an extra mile. So if we ran 10, at the very end of 10, he'd be like, "Hey, son, you're not done yet. Let's run one more." And then, if we were doing push-ups, we'd do 50 push-ups, and then we'd be done. And he'd say, "Son, just do one more." And, we'd go out to the driveway and we'd shoot 100 hockey pucks, and we'd be done. And you go, "Just shoot one more." And the thing that taught me was that even when I was giving it all my, like, running that 10 miles, leaving everything on the table, I could still find a way to run an extra mile. I could still dig deeper into myself, to be able to use my legs and my lungs and use my arms for momentum to dig deeper and go an extra mile. Even when my arms were trembling doing 50 push-ups, I could still dig deeper, take a breath, and do one more. And, his I guess practice at a younger age, I think, really stood out to me then, and kind of spoke to me in the sense of, look, you're at that point where you're trembling up against the edge, but you can still do one more. And so I thought that, you know what, right now is not the time to quit, and I can still do one more. And that was a big piece of me coming back.
I actually think it's a very good piece of the story that you just told. You actually may be interested in this metaphor. My ex-girlfriend was she's an athlete, and she's a swimmer, and she taught me swimming. And she told me that in swimming you cannot give up, because when you run you can stop, but if you stop swimming you die. So you cannot stop.
Yeah.
it's a little bit of the top, not very important, but I just wondering, were you charged that you broke? No,
No,
did they? No, did nobody notice, or just they just told you? Okay,
they
okay,
just nobody they didn't want to press charges.
okay. It's yes, I don't think it's very important. So, would you like to tell the second half of the story about the recovery?
Yeah, for sure, man. So picking up where we left off, I feel even more kind of shame and embarrassment, which makes me kind of like revert to drinking my sorrows away, kind of thing. And um, you know, for me, it was monumental. But I think it comes in different ways to different people. And so I remember again super vividly where I had these ugly green leather couches, and I was sitting there on my couch and I was drinking a beer, and I was watching this TV show, and it was like the Grammys or something like that, or I can't remember what the show itself was, but they stopped the show to do a live performance, and the performance was by the lead artist from Great Big World, and I don't know what the guy's name is, but the song is called "Say Something," and the lyric itself that stood out to me was "Say something, I'm giving up on you." And to me, music has always really been a significant part of my life. I run to music. I listen to music when I'm really stressed, and it helps me de-stress. I listen to music to help energize me if I'm feeling like unmotivated. My grandparents played music their entire life, taught me a little bit of it. And I used to kind of like tour with them a little bit. They used to perform for at old folks' homes for free. And so I used to go with them to those. And so music has always been a really significant part of my life. And so I heard this song, and for whatever reason, it was just the right time, the right place, and it spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
And through the breakup, I didn't get any closure. It just happened like that. And then the next day, I never saw her again. And so for me, it was "Say something or I'm giving up on you." And so I posted that lyric on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And all it was "Say something, I'm giving up on you." And to me, that was my closure. To everybody who was looking at it, that was just some song lyric that was big 7 years ago. But for me, every day that went by where she didn't say something was more closure. So day one was a step forward. Day two, another step forward. Day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. was more steps forward. And I told myself for every day that I don't hear something, I'm going to do one single thing that either makes me a happier or a better person.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that realization of, you know what? I'm sick of sitting here on my couch feeling like shit, drinking beers and wasting my life. It's time to stand up and shake things off and get back on the treadmill or, whatever. And so I went to the kitchen, I dumped out my beer, and I went to bed. And the next morning I woke up and I went for a run. And that was the one thing that I did for that day to make me a better or happier person. And then the day after that, I started listening to podcasts. And the day after that, I reached out to a friend just to go for a chat and a walk. And then the day after that, the day after that, and the day after that, I just kept doing small little things to make me a happy or a better person. And there's a metaphor that I'll use. And let's just take a small time frame of 6 months. And that's a pretty small time frame when you consider your life. And let's say if you're looking at a compass, south is bad, north is good.
Mm-hmm.
And over 6 months, that's about 180 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do one thing a day to make you a happier or a better person, that's 1 degree
mm-hmm.
towards north.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're starting at south and south is bad, north is good, if you do one thing a day and commit to that for 6 months, you can completely turn your life around. Mm-hmm. And that was what happened with me. I started exercising a whole lot more. I started getting more social, and then I started talking with my family, just about random stuff, and just got more engaged. And I started reading books and listening to podcasts to better my knowledge and my mindset. And I just did one single thing every single day to make me a happier or a better person. And within about 6 to 12 months, it was a night and day turnaround, in the sense of, I still had a lot of hurt from it, but I was no longer stuck in this depressed state.
What I heard, it sounds like cognitive behavior therapy. So you understand what's happening to you, and you make some steps, you change your behavior. But did you feel that you would just give up again? After 20 steps, you just it's just where is my beer? There should be one more bottle somewhere.
Yeah, you know what? The thought definitely crossed my mind at times, but for me, I was committed, and I think part of it came from spite. I wanted to prove to her that she made the biggest mistake of her life, and that motivated me. And then as I became happier, stronger, better in work, that spite then turned into, hey, it's actually, what I'm doing is working. How can I continue this? And I was just very committed to doing one thing a day that was going to make me a happier, a better person. And yeah, I'm sure like there was days where, everybody has them here. You could be the happiest soul in the world, but I guarantee you're going to have days in a year that suck, right? You get a phone call that maybe a friend passes away, or you lose a job, or you didn't get the big sales contract that you thought you were going to get. And those days suck. But there's an old coach of mine told me that there's an 80-20 rule. And as long as you're committing to your big goal 80% of the time, you're going to keep on that track. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that if I just stayed committed to bettering my mindset and my abilities, that things were going to work out. And I just had faith in myself, and I believe in God as well. So I had faith in God, and I just thought that I just had this kind of feeling that things were going to work out.
So do you still want to prove her that she made a mistake?
Every day.
It's also a little bit off the topic, but didn't you worry to go to hell if you believe to God? Because as I know, if you commit a suicide, you go straight, or maybe, I don't know.
You know what? I don't know all the ins and the outs of that.
Well, at this point, am I right? Or, yeah, a little bit shaky question.
I think like within the Bible, it does say like, if you take your own life, I don't know what the verbiage is, but like you're condemned in some sort of way. I think that up until that point, like I lived my life really, really well, in the sense of, I was kind, I was honest, I was loyal. I played my cards right, and I thought that I was a good human being. And so if I had thought like if I was going to hell, if I was going to heaven, I probably would have guessed heaven. And mm-hmm. And so to be honest, like at the time, like that didn't really cross my mind. Mm-hmm. I was in this state of illogic.
I think actually it was a good question, but I just wanted to ask you about religion. Yes. These two things, your achievements and addiction is actually, no, I'm interested in this. Your attitude during your depression and then after the depression and before. So what was the impact? So no, as I understood, you actually experienced these two things because you told you used to drink beer. Do you consider it as addiction, or it was just your choice, or what do you think?
No, then it was definitely an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it through the day I looked forward to the beer at night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yes, I got you. And so yes, want to kind of, and now apparently everything is different, right? So you just change. Look, yeah. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just very interested how depression actually affects on such things, because when I was growing up, I was taught that if you drink so much, you become an addict. You become addicted to alcohol. But I'm thinking that there are actually different reasons to be addicted. It's not because you drink spirit. You know what I mean, right? But because you have something on your mind, that's why I'm kind of asking you about the reason for this. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like addiction can be a disease. And I think there are certain parts of the brain that are either under pressure or inflated or, undergrown, or whatever the right word is, that encourage individuals who suffer from that to be more addicted to substances than others. And I think that certain life circumstances also push people to look for escapes and look for things that dull the pain, whether it be drugs or alcohol or other addictions like work, right? I know people who are so afraid of their own life that all they do is work.
Mm-hmm.
And, to a lot of people, if you're addicted to work, like that may not be a bad thing, but if you're avoiding and hiding from all other areas of your life, regardless if it's because of work or booze or drugs, then that's a bad thing. And in my mind anyways, and it's something that people should be aware of and try to face music on.
Face music?
Yeah, it's a phrase. It's like come to terms with.
Okay. Thank you very much for your story, and a couple of maybe general questions.
Okay.
Maybe about superstition. No, I know that from your story, I realized that you didn't go to psychologists, right? Or did you ask about help? Or, no?
No, I didn't. And to be honest, I'm not really sure why. Thinking about it, I had the resources. I could have easily asked for help. I thought that because I'm a man, that I have to be impenetrable and strong and not show any kind of weakness. And because of that, I saw then that asking for help was a form of weakness. Mm-hmm. In the sense of, if I need help building a house, I don't know how to build a house, so because I don't know it, that's a weakness. Mm-hmm. Which is friggin' ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And part of my mindset change over the last few years has been that it is so beneficial for everyone involved when you ask for help. And what I mean by that is most human beings love helping other humans. Mm-hmm. We enjoy feeling like we contributed to somebody. And so for me now, asking for help is almost like a daily a daily thing, whether it be help in my business, or help speaking, help with depression, anything along those lines. And I don't consider asking for help a weakness anymore. I consider it an act of strength.
Mhm.
And because when I ask for help and somebody helps me, I now have an extra tool in my belt.
Mhm.
So if I ask to build a house or help to build a house, now I know how to build a house, whereas a month ago I didn't. So now I have new information, new knowledge, and a new skill set. So me asking for help to build that house taught me things that I didn't know before. That is strength. That is growth.
Um, you know, also I have a question, maybe not about you, but about your surroundings. If there is a way to notice that somebody needs help, because I told you about my friend, and everybody thought that he's, you know, he so he wasn't my close friend, but he committed suicide a year ago, a year and a half maybe, and he loved to be first. He was a marathon runner actually, and he always won. He ran 100 miles. He was first. 100 miles. Just imagine.
Wow.
And many people thought that he's the best, and many people were surprised. Yes. So my question: are there maybe some signs that person needs help? Because no, that I told you, maybe it was a sign, that he wants to achieve something and he just couldn't achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some different signs for this.
Yeah, the thing that I think of most is communication.
Mm-hmm.
So when, like, prior to my depression and after my depression, when I'm not feeling depressed, I communicate a lot better with people who are close to me. And so that's friends, that's family. And when I'm not feeling great about myself, or if I'm feeling depressed, first thing that usually happens is that communication disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, from an outsider person looking in, so let's say, you and I both had a friend who, was an upbeat, energetic athlete or something along those lines. And then, we're always talking to them, and, they're always talking back to us, and, goofing around, and, building business with each other and supporting people at the gym, whatever. And then, over a few weeks, you and I come together and we're like, hey, like, Tim over here, like, have you noticed, like, he's kind of, like, not doing as much anymore? Like, he missed the gym a couple times, and we haven't really talked to him the last 2 months. Like, you think he's okay? Do you know of anything? So keeping aware of their energy in that sense, I think, is a really big indicator for friends to watch out for. And then when you have that suspicion, I would recommend that you contact them more.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were contacting them, a couple times a week, double it, and just try to get in front of them as much as possible in a supportive type way. And I'm not saying, like, push them on saying, like you need to go to therapy and, get your shit together and that kind of stuff. Be there in the sense of, like, hey, like, I'm your friend. I want to hang out with you. You're a great guy because of you're pushing me to be a better person as well. You're a great guy because, the way that you give back to the community. You're a great guy because all these types of things. And that's why I want to be around you, right? So that's why I keep reaching out to you. Like, let's connect. Let's go for a walk. Let's go for runs. Hit the gym again. Let's go for a kayak. Like, the more time that you can spend close to them gives you more and more opportunities to see into their life. And a lot of times people in a depressed state will, like I said, like, they'll have that mask, but that mask gets so tiring to wear. So they start to say, like, no, I don't want to wear this mask anymore. So I don't want to spend time with my friends, because if I spend time with them, I have to put the mask back on. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to seclude myself. So that's, I think, one of the biggest indicators that I've seen.
Thank you very much. So is there something else you want to tell for the people to know some of?
Yeah, I mean, so, you and I, we live in British Columbia, right? So we have a crisis line. Mm-hmm. So if you were just to Google, like, BC crisis, phone line. What that is it's a supportive place for people who are going through a hard time. And all it is some ears to listen to you. And a lot of the times, looking back, like all I wanted to do was just freaking scream. I just felt so, like, in a lot of ways, angry about what had happened. And then I felt angry at myself about how I was feeling. And so all I wanted to do was just let it all out. And a lot of times what's super healthy is just to talk to a freaking stranger, because there's no judgment then. And so calling the crisis line is a really good, helpful tool for people who are feeling like you are depressed or like you're going through a hard time. They have a great support system there. And I know a couple of people who volunteer with them on a weekly basis, and they're amazing people, and they do great work. And so if you're feeling down, like, give them a call. If you're feeling down, give a friend a call. If you're feeling down, contact like us, and like we can be here for you as well. Like, there is, I'm living proof that shit happens. It can walk and push you to the edge, but you have the cognitive ability to make the decision, and you can make the decision to turn your life around. It just takes small actions every single day, and the consistency and the discipline to hold yourself to it. And you can completely, like I said, turn yourself around, go from south to north within just a couple of months. And a couple of months might sound like a freaking mountain to climb right now, but every mountain starts with just a couple of steps. And there's a lot of support systems out there. So the crisis line is a great one, and friend resources is another. And then, just get involved with some sort of community, whether it's your family, your tight friends, or just like, I don't know what like the phrase is, but how like Alcoholics Anonymous get together like on a weekly or monthly basis to, there's communities like that for, people who are going through different circumstances. Maybe it's divorce, maybe it's you lost a job, maybe it's you are struggling from some sort of addiction. Like, there are support mechanisms out there, and just all you have to do is open up Google and search.
By the way, very last question. How much did it take to you to recover?
How long?
How long, yes.
Still recovering, bro. I think like, looking back on it, from when the breakup happened, it took, and then like I went through the depression, the suicide attempt was about 6 months afterwards. And then, I would say it took me, probably about a year to get to, a comfortable position again. And then what I did was I got hooked up with a lot of personal development, a lot of personal growth through podcasts, through books, communities, through friends who pushed. And I got, a morning routine. I read more books on self-help kind of stuff. And the growth that I've gone through the last 2.5, 3 years on that alone has been so significant. So it's not a direct answer. The short answer is somewhere between, 8 to 12 months. And the long answer is I'm still working on it.
I think it's a good interview. I like it.
Me too.
Yeah. So thank you, Steve, again. Give a hug to Rebecca from me, please. And yeah, so I'll see you in a week.
All right, man. Thank you so much for going through this. I'm glad that we got to have this as a conversation and that we're able to share it with others, because it's necessary. People need to see that there's other people out there that are, going through similar things, so that you don't feel alone. And back then, I totally felt alone. And knowing that there's other people who feel or have felt this way would have changed a lot. And so for everybody listening and watching, like, a lot of people have been there, and myself included, and it's not the end. You just got to make the decision to go one step at a time, one day at a time, and just stick to that one step at a time. So thanks, Yvonne. And I will give that hug, and I'll see you in a week.
Okay, see you.
All right. See you, bro.